off the presses of Facebook.
Yeah.
Just
All right.
in.
So
You gotta give
no,
us your
seriously.
news
All right.
announcements.
So breaking news here. Apparently, Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter accident.
Yeah, so it was his own private. So I guess he's been known to travel in his own private helicopter, and it crashed in the suburbs, in LA suburbs, close to Calabasas. Him and 4 other people. So I guess it's a crazy world we live in. I mean, people die like that, you know.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
Mm.
I mean, he was still playing, right? I don't really watch football. I mean, aside from football,
Basketball.
you know, sports. I like
Basketball. Basketball.
Me either, dude. I only know Kobe Bryant because I had one basketball game for my GameCube. NBA 2002.
2002.
Yeah, I think he was on the cover, dude. Fucking the Lakers.
Hoops.
Yeah, so, yeah.
NBA hoops or whatever.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
wow.
young.
We're all mortal.
Yeah.
We're all mortal.
Yeah, seriously.
I have nothing more to say. Dude,
Breaking news!
breaking news. That's
Kobe Bryant dies in a helicopter accident, and
Whoops.
none of us care.
Yeah,
All right.
well, obviously he failed the simulation, so it's...
Oh God.
So, I guess... Oh, are you still...
Yeah, oh yeah.
You're still
We're going, man. Yeah, we're still going.
Cool.
Yeah, he had a controversial thing at a hotel. I want to say I don't know if it was rape charges or not. This is like an early 2000s.
I remember that. He was accused of rape.
And then the next time he was in public at some, I don't know, some award thing or not, his wife was with him, and she had this new big rock on her finger.
Huh.
Big rock on
Alright.
her finger. It was like, I don't know, you know. I have nothing personally against Kobe Bryant. I guess he was a great basketball player, so it's really sad.
Yeah.
Well, he was just from somebody I knew from, you know, childhood, you know. So again, you know, he did play alongside, you know, not along with him, but he was around the time when Michael Jordan was still, you know, big.
Yeah.
So that was a huge thing because it was like, you know, MJ and the Bulls, and then, you know, Lakers got this young hotshot kid,
Right.
Kobe Bryant, you know. So that was...
No, it's LeBron, right? Is that who's big now?
Yeah.
LeBron
Is it still
James?
LeBron? I don't know.
I don't know
he's
who's
kind of
big now.
he's the big deal now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, talking about famous basketball players, though, I think Michael Jordan is just like one of the greatest successes. He's got one of the greatest success stories.
Yeah.
You know, watch, I say this now, 10 years from now, he'll be the next, you know, Bill Cosby, but
Oh.
I hope not. I hope not. I really like Michael Jordan. Okay,
Yeah.
I think he's kind of like my go-to success story because,
Yeah.
like a lot of people right now are Trump, you know, and Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos, and all these, you know, guys and everything. And it's like, I don't know. I really think like Michael Jordan, like all those guys are super corrupt. When you look into them, you know, maybe we can dive into that a little bit here, but they're super corrupt. And Michael Jordan, I feel like, is someone who literally came from the streets. He literally didn't make what he didn't make the varsity
I
cut
know. That
for
was
his basketball
crazy. He
team.
just kept practicing and practicing,
Yeah.
got better and better.
Freaking awesome. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
then not only did he play basketball, he also played baseball.
Yeah.
Whether or not he was good, up for question, right?
He went for it, though.
But he did it, right?
He
He
did.
did it.
He bought a
That guy
new-
was so good at baseball.
Bought a
to
new
even
bus.
play.
Bought a new bus for his minor league team that he was with. So all of a sudden those guys got to have a boost up and how they traveled and stuff. So that's cool. That's a cool story about him.
And then he also, I look and I see he still gives back to the community. You know, he builds businesses and he really helps a lot of people out and everything. And just the more one time I did really kind of look into Michael Jordan now, what is he up to today and everything. And it was just like nonstop positivity and just the guy is awesome.
He had a
You
great
know, so-
appearance on Saturday Night Live, by the way, also.
Yeah.
And I want to say that was in the early 90s, maybe 92, maybe. Look that up sometime on YouTube. It was very funny on Saturday Night Live. They did a whole thing with the Stuart Smalley character. You're good enough, smart enough, and doggone it, people like you.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was very funny. It's a very funny skit with him and Al Franken, who later went on to become a senator. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But yeah.
But yeah, no, like people really like Elon Musk and they really like Jeff Bezos, and they're kind of like these, you know, whatever success stories. I don't know how you guys feel about them, but
I honestly, after watching that the Joe Rogan experience with Elon Musk, the way how he thinks and stuff like that, the guy is a incredible genius, but I also think he's from a different planet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. If you ever think about it, like when he's like, even Rogan's like, he's like, you're coming out with all this stuff and, you know, new inventions and doing all these things. It's like, you're not from this planet. And if you ever see his face, he's like, oh no. Like that, you know, it's like, oh shit, they caught me. He's like, oh. You know, because like, yeah, well, because, and it was another thing, like in that podcast, he was asking him, like, when did you know you were, you know, kind of like a genius, not thinking from, like, you're thinking outside the box more than the kids around your age. He's like, when I was 6, you know? Yeah, well, because besides, whatever, you know, was it SpaceX's program that he has for shooting out rockets and,
I think so, something like
that. But he's doing a bunch of tons of other things. And I think another cool thing that he was talking about was how to relieve LA traffic. It wasn't to build on top of the roads of like, you know, like triple, you know, 4 stack highways. He was talking about dig underneath the ground and basically make tunnels.
Yeah.
And they kind of like, I guess the same way, like if you look at a snake, how it works, like make it into like how they connect is like scale. So when they do have earthquakes, the tunnels move too. They don't
scales. You must be reptilian.
Yeah, right. Exactly. He's like, that's why he's in
God damn it, Nibiru.
I think you're talking about that with Chicago too, but I mean, I don't know why that makes him a genius though.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, besides the other things,
you know about Japan, and in Japan everybody moves on the bullet, right? The train system there, right?
Well, I mean, Zach could even contest on that. Well, like honestly, the main metropolitan like it's not train. I mean, it's not bullet. It's train. It's a regular electric train. Yeah, regular electric trains. It's only the bullet trains can only go from like let's say Tokyo to Kyoto or Osaka, and that's when I mean if you think about bullet trains are pretty cool too because they're magnets. They don't even sit on the actual track, so it's actually floating on the track.
Wow!
And that's why they're able to go really fast.
Oh wow!
And so like. I mean, I've never rode on one. It'd be cool, but it's. I mean, as you can tell, it gets expensive out there doing certain things. You know?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but for the most part, just get at convenience stores and walk around. You'll have a great time.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do a whole podcast about Tokyo and Japan. Yeah, that was a blast. But no, I mean, to the point of Elon Musk being this genius, you know, it's like I got really into Tesla in high school. I got really into Nikola Tesla, you know. And so when I saw this company called Tesla, I was like, "Oh, this is so awesome!" And I got really into it. And I mean, my dad gave me a test here. He was the first one to kind of be like, you know, like I don't get the buzz. I don't get it. And I'm like, it's Tesla. It's Nikola Tesla. And he's like, no, it's not. It's just his name. You know, it's like just because they use an actual genius's name doesn't mean anything. You know. And you really turned me on. You can talk more about this than I can in length, but you kind of turned me on to how Elon Musk, basically Tesla doesn't really make a profit, and they are propped up by taxpayer dollars.
There's a lot of tax incentives and taxpayer dollars he's gotten for this company and other companies. I think only time will tell, to be fair here, whether he is a genius or just a great con man. I don't know. He's not the first person to talk about an electric car. That's been talked about and worked on for a long time. So we'll see. I will tell you this right now. As of right now, the stock in last month or two, has just been jumping like crazy. So somebody knows something. And as a company, as a stock, people that own stock in it, it's like a cult. And they say never go against a cult stock. And boy, Tesla would be the prime example of that. It's just amazing for a company that's not making any real profit yet. It's all future, what they expect to be coming. Like you said, these big projects in cities and whatnot. There's all this future, and that's what investors are putting all the money into. They think Tesla's going to be a big deal. So it either is going to be the future or it's going to be a major flop. And I guess only, to be fair, time will tell.
Yeah. And we'll figure out if he's an alien or not too, because his girlfriend just got Grimes pregnant. I don't know if you know, he was dating this musician named Grimes.
Okay.
And some of her music is really good, but yeah, she just came out recently where she's pregnant with Elon Musk's baby, so we could have a little half reptilian, half half carbon
yellow
base.
eyes, those predator cat eyes.
He claims to be South African, right?
I don't really know much, but does he come to be South African? I mean, it is warm.
We'll look it up, but we'll talk about it next time.
Is that where all the aliens hang out?
I guess. I mean,
let's ask Alex Jones.
Well, our frogs are gay now, so
frogs are gay.
Yeah.
But so he's I think he's kind of a controversy. I think a lot of people like him just because he's got a really cool name. He tweets about Gundam, and he
smokes marijuana
with Joe Rogan.
On a show. On a show.
Yeah.
I think that one where you brought up he might be a con man, or like that one, I think he did that as a position for his company, because like stocks did drop really low after that podcast came out, especially with the video, and then I think something where I think he was able to buy them at a lower price, and then they jumped up really high afterwards.
Yeah.
Yep. So, because I mean, if you ever think about it, he's just sitting there, just
Right.
so am I doing the right thing? Possibly. Who knows? I might not be able to make the best decisions after the next couple hours after I smoke this. So, but whatever. I mean, it's funny though, because that's what I like Joe Rogan's podcast, because he brings those people. He brings it out.
He brings everybody in. He's awesome. He really, because he'll
guy's
bring
an
in
animal.
comedians.
He cranks them out.
Right? Well, yeah. He'll bring in comedians and do a bunch of funny
Senators
stuff.
and
He'll do fart and dick jokes.
Yeah.
Right? And then he'll flip around and he'll have neuroscientists, physicists.
Right, I saw that.
Neil. Clinical psychologists and like all kinds. The guy who, I think I watched a really interesting podcast. He had the guy who pretty much invented Xanax. Okay, like on there and everything, talking about how Xanax they used it for the wrong reasons. Right. It was not supposed to cure anxiety at all. It wasn't supposed to be used as an anti-anxiety medication whatsoever. Big pharma's made big bucks on that, right? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that Joe Rogan has, and it's so cool. I think it's so cool. So, but on to the next one, Jeff Bezos. Okay, and I think more people are kind of getting on the right track with him as far as Amazon not paying any taxes, and him being this insane billionaire. I did the math on it one time. Oh my god, I should know how much he makes. It's something in the billions.
And thank God he got a divorce. So now Mackenzie's got a whole bunch of the money too.
There you go.
But yeah, no, that company's incredible, and the whole deal's incredible. But he's got government contracts, and he gives money to politicians, and it is, the whole thing is just so corrupt. And I know everybody's on that Amazon train, and they're ordering stuff on Amazon, but the more you do that, the more you're going to hurt the little guy. I just, somebody's got to say it, and I'm for the little guy. I'm for the mom and pop businesses out there, and I think that's about the American dream. But if we have just these gigantic, companies that monopolize almost everything, then you're going to have less mom and pop and, more Jeff Bezos. And the thing that drives me nuts, too, you get these billionaires, they're all a little nuts, too, which is kind of cool about all of them. The guy's building a gigantic clock inside a mountain in New Mexico. I don't know if everybody knows about this. Again, why isn't this kind of stuff talked about on the mainstream media? Rachel Maddow, yeah, goofy broad, or what's his name, or Don Lemon on CNN, or Hannity on Fox. All you idiots. Yeah. Why don't you talk about this? A gigantic clock. The guy's making billions, but putting all the little guys out of business. But he's building a clock. We all have a bunch of clocks in the world. Why would we need more clocks? He built a gigantic clock inside of a mountain in New Mexico. What's that all about? Talk about aliens. I don't know. Maybe it's an alien clock.
It could be a countdown.
It's a countdown.
Could be like a doomsday clock. Yeah.
My question is it analog or is it digital? No,
there you go, man.
I want to know.
Good question. So, but yeah, there's a lot of crazy billionaires out there. Some are cool.
Actually, yeah. Speaking about crazy like billionaires or millionaires, have you ever heard of the dude who was it McPhee or whatever? What's the?
Oh yeah, down there in South America, or whatever.
He's like evading taxes by just on his yacht. The guy that created
McAfee.
McAfee, yes.
The cyber protection.
Yeah, cyber protection on computers.
Yeah.
So, but
is it John McAfee?
I think so. Well, I should look it up.
There you go.
But yeah, but he actually
just kept popping up on my laptop.
Yeah,
sitting here.
Yeah, like one of his neighbors died mysteriously, and he's being questioned or was questioned a couple of years ago. Some crazy stuff about him. He's an interesting dude. I do find him fascinating.
Well, you also know the other thing is I've heard through another podcast he was even trying to make claims that he wants to become try to get in the presidential program, but also another thing is he's evading taxes by on his yacht, and he likes to go to places like Bali and stuff, and he likes to pick up hookers and stuff of that, and he'll lay down on the ground and there's a hole cut out in the hammock, and he likes to get shit on.
Oh my god.
Oh,
These things I know nothing about.
I mean,
why is it
I
always
just
the
want to
billionaires that
say.
have
no, but I
these
mean, it's
fetishes?
a crazy thing. But I mean, like, yeah, there's actually
Wow.
there's like some document. There's a podcast. I know what podcast it is. I just don't want to throw the name out
So
of it. But yeah, there's
okay, I know nothing about this. So
yeah, dude.
Me either.
But, I mean, I could be just lying to you. Who knows?
I believe
could be
somebody-
Sounds like something primates do to each other.
Yeah.
oh dear, wow.
Throwing dung, dude.
Oh my gosh, wow. Yeah.
That's
Do we have too many billionaires? I don't know. Was it Bernie? Bernie's been ripping on that, or is it AOC? I don't know. Somebody's been ripping on too many billionaires, or we shouldn't have billionaires.
Both of them probably have, and we got into an
Yeah.
interesting topic talk one time. I have a whole thing. I lean very fiscally conservative, libertarian, just kind of let everybody do their own thing, but like the wealth gap is just a giant gorilla in the room when it comes to politics, when it comes to social issues, when it comes to everything. I think if you follow the money in most things, you're really going to get to the heart of what's going on and where people's motivations are. And so I really think, 100 years ago, we've talked about this too, 100 years ago, the CEO of a company made 200 times what the average guy walking in made, right? Now it's something like the CEO of a company makes 30,000 times what the guy walking in makes, right? And so somewhere, to kind of wrap up my view on most economic systems and social systems, like capitalism, socialism, that's always a big heated debate, communism, all that stuff, I think that everything devolves into tyranny. The better system, the best system, is the system that devolves into tyranny the slowest. So, truly, I mean, I think if you look at human history, if you look at human history, what I just said is probably true, right?
Right.
And feel free, we can do a podcast where we beat that idea with a hammer and see if it still works, right? So, my view is that capitalism is that system. I think it's done great things for humanity, but it's going to devolve into tyranny, right? It's going to, just like everything else. And so what do we do about the wealth gap? I kind of had this whole idea of, first, we really got to get the Federal Reserve the power to manipulate our currency out of their hands, because they're a private bank.
Right.
Okay, they are coined federal, but it is as federal as the Federal Express. So they are a private bank. Okay, we gave that power away with Woodrow Wilson in 1913.
Right.
So if you do that, if you take away a private bank's ability to manipulate currency, I think what could be done, either as a short-term answer or a long-term answer to bridge the wealth gap, is have a maximum income. So instead of creating this whole we're going to have a minimum wage of $7.25, we're going to have a minimum wage of $15. It's like you're putting a Band-Aid on an issue and it's not helping you out. You know what I mean? It's like the issue is you're sick. You can't put a Band-Aid on a sick person and expect them to get better, right? It's just they're going to keep getting sick, right? And it doesn't help anything, because we thought $7.25 was going to help, and it didn't. And now it's 15, right? Now everyone's calling for 15, and it's not helping.
Well,
I think there's a really strong. I'll finish. There's a really strong argument for somebody. There's a stronger argument for a single person to not make over $1 million a year than there is for the minimum wage to get raised from $7.25 to $15 an hour or something like that.
I mean, that could work, but I mean, when you say let's fix the minimum wage gap from 7 to 15, when they do that, everything else goes up. So I mean, it's not really fixing your right. It's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid thing, and they try to. There should be caps on things. I definitely believe you're right on that. But we gotta stop. We gotta start from the top and then work our way down.
Yes. Yeah.
At this point, the way how things are going and how, I mean, everybody knows it. People aren't dumb. We're not dumb. Well, we're kind of dumb, but but it's just
we got Google.
Yeah. We got them magic boxes and whatever. But it definitely needs to stop with the hyper 1%. It doesn't make any sense. That money's going to be seen through 15 generations and plus. If nothing happens, within that,
Yeah.
maybe we should just get a group of people together, not talk about it, maybe fight each other once in a basement, and then like blow up banks. I'm just joking.
He's just joking.
Blow up banks.
He's just joking. The views expressed by members of the panel do not necessarily.
That was basically just a dialogue of Fight Club. But,
Mike, gotta stop watching V for Vendetta every day. Okay, dude.
Yeah.
Mike's watching Fight Club way too much.
Remember
There's number one rule on Fight Club.
Number one rule. No, I mean, well, revolutions were started on less. So,
True.
I
Keep
think
your powder dry, people. Keep your powder dry. We are not.
the country was fought
or
over
anything.
a 2% stamp tax. Okay, you know what I mean. And right now, everyone's paying 30% income tax. Right. It's like something definitely went wrong here. You know what I mean? And like not only on the private sector of things where you have some people making just ludicrous amounts of money. And then the majority of people making not a lot, right? And it's like, some of that is okay. I really think that 100 years ago, when it was 1 to 200, 200 to 1, right, for the CEO of a company and the grunt coming in, that seems pretty fair, right? And that's still capital. They had a capitalist society, right? And I think there are also other contributing factors too. I think women entering the workplace has also been a huge thing on the economy that no one really wants to talk about. You know what I mean? And it's like, for better or for worse, you can't have the good without the bad, right? And so it's very plain to see for everyone the good part about women working. The bad part is you have to take all the jobs that are available, cut them in half, because now the other half of the population is women are going, well, now we want to work too, right? And so I think there's something to be said about that as well. I think that's a contributing factor for the average person, right? But there's more than enough money to go around. There's more than enough money to go around. And that's where it gets. This is where it gets a little effy, where it's like, well, what the hell? What excuse does anyone have to make $1 million a year?
That was the weird thing when Trump got in and he passed this big tax cut, and it was mostly for the rich people out there, and again, I think that's just all wrong, and I don't know. There's no silver bullet here. America's got to realize we got a lot of debt, we got a big wealth gap, middle class has been under attack for a long time, and the bottom line is wherever your politics are, left or right or center, if you don't have a thriving middle class and you don't have strong families, you're going to have problems. And what have we had in the last 30 years or more? We've had a lot of the family's been falling apart. I think the divorce rate's a little less now than it was at one time, but the family is under a lot of pressure and the middle class is under pressure, and of course those things probably go hand in hand. And people need to really, we need to really think about that and what we all need to do. And I don't know. I don't think there's a silver bullet, but we do need to give ourselves some strong medicine. Otherwise, the country is probably going to go off the cliff at some point. And I don't know what that's going to look like. You probably are going to have massive violence out there. I'm not promoting that at all. But we're going to have some rough times. And I think a huge tax on the rich and a huge tax cut for the working class and the middle class is what really needs to happen. And we need to just come out and say it, because the rich have the money, but and then when we get things straightened out, you can go back to cutting the taxes for the rich. Because the working class and the middle class, many of those people won't save that money. Some will save it and pay down debt, but others will just spend it. When they spend it, it'll all go back up to the rich again. See, and what it does though, it creates the velocity of money in the economy, and it gets the economy moving, and that's what we need. But we also need everybody to come back to some reality here. And we were talking about people buying islands and stuff like that. Yeah, and that's where we're just getting whacked out. Stuff,
Yeah, I don't see the point of
devolving to
owning your own
devolving back to tyranny.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I don't see a point. Like, you can buy a nice house, a nice big house on an island, and go there. But what's really the point of owning your private island?
Owning people.
Yeah, I get that, but it's just because people suck.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's like what would any of us do in that situation, right? It's like
I think Johnny Depp had an island. I don't know if he still does. He had a bad divorce, the actor, and Steve Forbes may have inherited one from his father, Malcolm Forbes. I don't know if they have an island on the one side of the continent of Africa. They've got an island over there. So I mean, this stuff's been going on for a long time. And
right.
it's insane. You're right. Like how often can I even spend time there?
Right.
So, it's just like
you got nothing here. It's a lot of foliage.
Status symbol. Have your island. I don't know.
What do you think, Keura?
Yeah.
I'm just listening because I don't know a lot, like I said, don't know a lot about politics or a lot of the stuff, but like I'm just listening to you guys' points, and I really like your point about like the tax thing and like lowering it for the middle class and rich people and all that kind of stuff. But I don't really know if I have like an opinion. I'm very like, especially with politics, I have no stance. I'm just here to listen to whatever is going to go on. So
For sure.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's what this forum is about, and all forums like this, is that hopefully it's a way for people to be entertained, at the same time be thinking about things. And hopefully that's maybe a little
Step
more
outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I think again we've really kind of devolved into a sense of tribalism culturally, and even the people that are not instinctually tribal or don't try to fall into those things feel like they are being pressured to fall into some sort of team A versus team B, and that's not how things should work, right? Things are far more complex than just a simple take the red pill or take the blue pill. It's way more complex. And you can be right-leaning on some things and left-leaning on others, and that is perfectly normal. I think the vast majority of people fall into that kind of category, this mosh-posh of, whatever. And I think something that I really want to kind of promote through a lot of these talks is being consistent throughout topics, right? Like here's a good example. You can't be pro-life on abortion, right? And care about this being as, something that's like a sentient being, and then be like super pro-war. Or not believe in funding for things like foster care and things like that, right? You have to hold consistent positions. If you care about a child when it's in the womb, but don't care about a child once it's born, do you really care about people? I think that's a virtue signaling moment, right? So holding consistent views across the board, I think, is really, really important. I think most people don't. Right? Probably all of us in this room have things where it might even be 90% consistent, but there's that one topic where you kind of flip things.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people have some hypocrisies, whether we want to admit it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I also think it's really important that, like, when people have really strong views like that, like for me, I don't really have very strong views about things. I just listen, and I just feel like the people who are so vocal about their opinions kind of just take a step back and, like, soak in some information, soak in some facts before you have such a loud voice about it. Yeah. That's why I don't, like, post a lot of things on Facebook about certain things, because I don't really know enough information to just be like, all right, this is the way things need to be. And if I do, and if I have in the past, people will comment and share their opinions, and I'm always there to listen to anybody's opinions. Like, just be somebody that can sit here and talk about these things and not be like, no, I'm triggered, or like, I'm offended.
Yeah, it's something that has elevated us from our cousins, the primates, right? And I think what we see, seriously, I think what you see when you get into these kinds of debates on Twitter and YouTube comments and Facebook is it's like bamboos throwing dung at each other again. You know what I mean? It quickly devolves into that. So,
and it's never ending. It's like somebody's trying to get you to believe their point. It's just like, you guys are wasting your time. Like, just stop. Just stop. So, yeah.
So I hope this forum and other forums can be also that search. Essentially, what you guys are just talking about right there is the search for objectivity, and because we all are so subjective in this culture, and it's gotten really bad. Like you said, very childish, and petty, and everyone's fighting and the tribal.
Everybody's offended.
Yeah, and and we're not all going to agree, and that's okay. We don't all always have to agree, and that's what's great about this country, and I hope it never changes. So.
Yeah. And to kind of dive back into a little bit of what you were talking about with a strong, you need a strong middle class and you need a strong family. And I really want to do a longer podcast on those two things, or maybe each gets their own thing, but to kind of chime in from like a psychological perspective. on the whole childish petty thing that's going on right now. I think some of it might have to do with some of those family dynamics, and what you've seen not only is the increase in divorce rates in families, but we have this the family is just like under attack, and you hear a lot of this from like the right wing people, but you left wing people got to get on board with this because the facts are all there. Single mother households are just astronomically higher than they ever have been.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand how that affects people on a psychological level, not having fathers in the home, and from a clinical psychologist and from a childhood psychologist perspective, having both families there for the child is the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to divorce or if you're going to split up or one of you is going to leave, the later on that happens in life, it is better for the kid. Okay, the earlier that happens for the child is like the worst thing. The worse it is. Okay. But what we've seen in a lot of these communities, single motherhood has tripled since the '60s in the black home. It is I don't know what's six. It is centupled. It has gone from 3% to 18% in the white home since the '60s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think it has also doubled or tripled in Asian homes and Latino homes here in the States. So this rise in single mother households, the father not being in the household, I think affects the dynamic of generations that are coming out now that are a little more petty and childlike.
Yeah.
And I think it's having your father there helps you wrestle with authority. And if you haven't learned to wrestle with authority as a child and now you're thrown into the world, you're going to have issues there. And I think that some of that is what we're seeing in society as a whole, is we're seeing the lack of knowing how to properly address authority, and play by a fair game, play by the rules, kind of a thing. Everyone's kind of like, well, fuck the rules, fuck society, fuck the world, like this nihilist perspective, and it's like it's easy to do that, but sorry, we all got to play a fair game. This is how things devolve, right? And I also see sort of the coddling and the archetypal tyrannical mother, and that being, in childhood psychology, the mother is sort of is more occupied with the safety of the child, and the biological reassurance of the child. We aren't really talking about what the father's role is in a child's life, and a lot of it has to do with rough and tumble play. Okay, a lot of it has to do with rough and tumble play. And you'll notice this, you probably have experiences with your parents, right? Or for some of us being a parent, the mother is less likely to rough and tumble play with a child. A father is more likely to wrestle around with the kid and interact with the kid in that manner, right? Mm-hmm. And this is really, really crucial. And I really want to do a whole podcast about a lot of this. This is really crucial for the development of how a child learns to socialize, So I think without that, you have just the mother. And then the mother, what do we do? This whole, independent woman thing. I think some of that is great. But like everything, there's a yin and a yang. You have to take the good with the bad. Mm-hmm. And so a father not being there and a mother having to do everything, you have more safety, more protection for the child, and less of that discovering the world, less of that, putting your fingers in your dad's mouth and your dad going, no, can't do that, right? If the dad's not there to teach the kid that, the kid's going to go do that out in the world. And then, the other kids in school, and then they're going to be like, what the hell are you doing, dude? I don't want to play with you. Just stick your fingers in my eyes, Yeah. Whereas if you do that to your dad's going to love you and teach you the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And so with now we have the archetypal tyrannical mom that's sort of coddling in nature, right? Because that's the motherly role, and that's what she's supposed to do, But now we have generations coming out now that they are afraid of free speech, we have people now who are comparing free speech to violence, right? And like fists being thrown, and it's and they're pushing for legal action about things that you say are the lawful equivalent to punches being thrown. It's like
if you're a lefty out there, I hope you could just take a breath, and I hope you listen to different shows like this and really try to look in the mirror a little bit There's something going on your side of the aisle. I don't know what it is. Who knows? Maybe it's a right-wing plant. I don't know if you want to blame everything on the right. But something has just gone nuts. I mean, with this whole, and I don't know how everyone here feels about this whole tranny thing and the whole he, she, or you can't say this, can't say that. By the way, I just want to remind everybody, there's a whole freaking language, and there's an A and an O. It's called Spanish. There's millions of people around the world who speak it, okay? What are they going to do? They're going to change it for you? They're not going to change it for you. You are amigo or you are amiga, okay? You are señorita or you're señor.
You are
okay? This is a whole language that is a male and a female thing, okay?
Yeah. Well, most languages are.
What the hell's going on here?
Well, yeah, it's not just Spanish; it's most
Italian, Portuguese. I think Portuguese is also like that as well. But most places, yeah, there's another person that I listened to that brought it up, and he's Latin. He's from Latin America, or his family's from Latin America, and so he asks his family that still live in Peru about this, and they're like, "No, we don't change anything," because it's the funny thing is, it seems like it's a big thing in America.
Yeah,
it seems like the whole I need to identify in America, and you know what? I'm okay with anybody who feels with whatever they are. Just don't nitpick about what I do wrong. I mean, I'll try to be respectful to anybody as anybody else. But
respect is huge.
Right.
Like I think to kind of put all of the alt left and the minority this or that kind of thing under perspective is like we should teach kids. We shouldn't be teaching kids about like LGBTQ stuff before they've gone through sex ed. Like there's like the whole thing where some of these schools are like trying to teach 8-year-olds about what gay means, and it's like they don't even know what the birds and the bees are.
If they're going to be doing that, maybe they should teach sexual education earlier on. Maybe they should bring that.
And there's an argument, and we can do it. We can talk about that sometime too.
I don't think it's a wrong thing. I mean, it's.
But I think at the end of the day, we just want people to treat each other with respect. Right. We don't want people to bully each other. And another harsh fact is people are going to bully each other no matter what. Like just because if you got rid of racism, sexism, the LGBTQ rights, you're still going to have people ripping on redheads because they got no souls. You're still going to have people ripping on people for beauty standards and you're ugly, your teeth are
just making fun of your name.
They're gonna make fun of your name.
Kids do that as soon as you go to school.
Make fun of your weight. They're gonna make fun of girls with little boobs. Okay, like there's a million things people are gonna get made fun of for, right? And at the end of the day, we should just teach kids to respect each other and be nice. Right? Don't be a bully. Right? That kind of is an all-encompassing compassion.
Right.
And I think some of this where it's like, no, we have to teach kids only to be nice to this group. It's like, are you really for inclusivity? Are you really care about everybody, or do you just care about you?
You
just care about you. You want to make this only about black and white. You want to make this only about our group and we're special. And it's like, no, just teach everybody to be respectful, be kind. And that's the best thing.
Just to rewind back to what you were talking about before, though. That would be an interesting podcast, especially to hear you.
I have a lot to say, but I think that this is a whole other episode.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just like...
I would like to hear what you have to say. I would like to hear what Sarah has to say.
Yeah.
Zach had his perspective. I mean, I would throw on the table, and again, I really want your view and Sarah's view, that some of the stuff you're talking about the male out there, and you were talking about different things. I'm really anti the male, so I want the male to really step up in America.
I think some of that is society's kind of put the male down. Some of that is kind of society's put the male down.
The male, I'm looking down on the male, and I've just seen example after example, and it's really, it's not good, and I don't like it. I don't like it, but. So that's where I come from. Just and I would love to hear. Yeah, you'd love to hear your comments, and that would probably be a good whole thing.
Probably be something next week or something.
You'd probably call it the state of the modern male, or masculinity in 2020, where we're at. Because I think
let's save that. Let's definitely save that for another podcast.
All right, we'll probably kill an hour easy there.
All right, so Kobe Bryant jumped out of a helicopter
I need to jump
without a parachute.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
No.
Terrible.
So it all starts with Kobe Bryant, ends up with this wackadoo.
All right.
That one could just be straight rant.
All right, guys. All right. Thank you for listening, and catch you next time.
Goodbye.